Hello, and how's it going, everyone? It is Skullzi here with the latest gaming news, rumors, and speculation. And another day, another Bethesda leak. Maybe not quite literally that common, but it seems like Bethesda leaks have indeed gotten a lot more frequent ever since the recent Microsoft acquisition. I wonder if there's a story to be told there, an epic tale of betrayal and madness. Either way, we just got one of the largest Bethesda leaks of the entire year, as not only did somebody leak 14 legit gameplay screenshots from an early testing build of Redfall, but we also got a pretty substantial amount of gameplay information as well, and to be very honest, this information actually gets me very excited for this game. On top of all this as well, I spoke with an anonymous source that told me something that makes this entire situation even more interesting and mysterious.
Ooh, mystery man, strange and exotic sailor. What happened? Did your captain make you pregnant? Screw you!
First off, the original source of this leak is the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit from an account named The Redfall, I believe, but it's deleted now, so I can't actually double check to make sure that's the name, and in fact, the original entire Imgur link that contained all 14 leaked screenshots is also dead now too. Perhaps a demon was involved, or more likely the leaker got worried, and they honestly have a reason to get worried, because the next thing I want to say is never leak stuff like this, especially if you're a game tester, as it can almost always get traced back to you using black magic and cliff racers. And if you do get discovered by Todd Howard while in the shower during a leak like this, you'll get blacklisted, sued, and potentially even more. And at the same time, it's kind of a slap in the face to a company that trusted you, which is bad news bears bitch. So with the combined powers of a paranoid person along with some of that anxiety, OP probably tried to cover their tracks by deleting everything, including their account and everything like that. But as it is with the internet, once you put something out there, especially something as big as this leak, it's out there forever. Because even if that Wayback Machine doesn't archive it, random internet human will. I did a bit of my own digging though, and this is where I believe this leak actually came from. The leakers said they were hired to test a game, but didn't actually know what game it would be until the day of the game's testing. Then they discovered it was Redfall, and supposedly this testing period was only for one day. And for my own personal investigations, I believe this leak is external, meaning it didn't come from within Arkane or any other internal Bethesda Softworks testing team. Instead, I believe Bethesda utilized an outside game testing agency for this Redfall test build specifically. That would make sense too, considering it was supposedly a one-day test period, and you can generally see that kind of stuff from agency contracts, but the leaker just got their agency in some big old trouble. Bad news bears bitch. Remember though, all the information and images in this video are from an early testing build of this game, and will most likely differ a bit from the final version. Either way though, as I said, on top of the 14 leaked screenshots, we got a decent information about the game as well, so I'll break this gameplay info down while showcasing the images simultaneously. Then I'll go back and talk about anything else interesting that I can find in these images, and then finally, I'll close the video out with a statement from an anonymous source that told me something interesting about all this as well, or maybe I'll bring up the anonymous source earlier, because I guess that is kind of important here. First off, this gameplay info, or the majority of it, comes from the leaker responding to questions in their original Reddit thread. Montana's92 though was chill enough to gather all this information from the leaker and gather it all nicely into one little skooma bottle for us all to enjoy. And by the way, it's safe to assume most of this gameplay information is legit, seeing how the leaker dropped 14 images from a test build of the game, which definitely gives them just a little bit of that credibility, but more on all this later. Here's all the leaked gameplay information though, including the leaked screenshots themselves. Remember, we will revisit these screenshots here in just a few, but one thing I do need to say is an anonymous source of mine told me that not all this information is correct. Some of it certainly is, but there is a correction they wanted to make, at least from their own perspective, and I'll get into that here in a few as well. But here is the leaked gameplay info. According to the original leaker of these images, they state that Redfall is an open world game in line with something between Borderlands and Breath of the Wild somehow. There is a core game story taking you across the world, but also a myriad of side arcs, missions, and fights. The gameplay style loop is very similar to Borderlands, seamless open world combat and exploration compared to the likes of Breath of the Wild and Ghost of Tsushima. Lots of different games here being compared, which is interesting, but whatever. The game can be played solo or co-op. 6 playable characters to choose from, which is weird because we only saw 4 in the trailer, but more on that here in a moment. Each character has a unique hero ability. One character has a bird that acted sort of a drone, and the other could cloak for added stealth. Another character had something similar to a shadow hop or short-range teleport move like a blink ability in Dishonored. The game can be tackled stealth or guns blazing. You get experience points from killing enemies and doing missions and also side missions. There are boss fights in the game, similar to bosses of Borderlands. The size of the map is similar in scope to Fallout 76 or Ghost of Tsushima. Mix of traditional weapons like rifles and handguns and also more unique stuff like a stake launcher. Enemies are a dynamic mix of ranged, melee, vampire, and human. And finally, there are NPCs, but not AI partners replacing human co-op like in Left 4 Dead, closer to Borderlands or Assassin's Creed NPCs. So now we're comparing Assassin's Creeds somehow, okay? But immediately, to be honest, in my opinion at least, all this sounds freaking amazing, dude, and actually, to be honest, allows Redfall to grab my attention even more so than before, as while I did think the Redfall trailer and premise was cool, there wasn't just enough info out there about the game yet for it to be on my high priority scanners. But now, it's up there. Way up there, Morty, as an Arkane Borderlands style game would be a blast. This is Arkane we're talking about here, Legends as far as I'm concerned, so I'd love to see their take on a game like this. Sure, it may not be for everybody, but that's just the natural state of things. And to be honest, the game definitely does sound like Borderlands, according to the leaker, right? Like a Borderlands game without the cell shading aesthetic or whatever, and basically with vampires. I'm actually a huge fan of Borderlands. I like the different guns, the loot mechanic, the characters were cool and fun, the game world was interesting enough, and although some of the quests were competitive, I still had genuine fun doing them. The style of game combined with Arkane's touch and design is totally something that is towards the top of my radar, and I feel like a lot more people are hyped for this game now thanks to this leak, which actually leads us into potentially dangerous territory full of cliff racers, angry Todd Howards, and empty bottles of skooma, which is perhaps the worst thing of all. And what do I mean by all this? Nothing. Good day. And what I mean by this is we really should base our hype and excitement levels for a game based off confirmed and official statements from the devs themselves. Sure, most of this leaked information is probably true and accurate, but there is a reason Arkane hasn't told us this information yet, and that is because games are subject to many changes throughout the development process, and Arkane wouldn't want to get the hype or expectations going in the wrong direction by stating something that may actually not end up being in the final game. Cyberpunk 2077 is a fine example of the no-no decision that this is, so keep in mind during this video that as cool as this game may sound based on this leaked information, remember to base your hype off official sources, and I have a fine example of this and why this is even accurate and relevant to this actual leaked information in this video. An anonymous source of mine told me that not all this information contained within this leak is accurate. Some of it is for sure, but not all of it, and according to my source, this is what the leaker has wrong. The game has 4 characters, not 6, and the gameplay is closer to Left 4 Dead than Borderlands. It's not just one single big open world map, but instead multiple medium-sized districts, kinda like the Outer Worlds or actual Borderland games, and that's it, that's their correction. Other than that, they said the majority of the info is accurate, but with this in mind though, why would the original leaker share legit info alongside information that they just straight up made up or are actually just wrong about? Perhaps they're trying to leave enough false information out there in an attempt to cover their tracks, but I don't think that's the case, nor do I think that would actually work, nor do I think that's what's going on here. To be honest, I don't actually know why they would claim it's 6 characters when it's actually 4. Maybe somehow they have knowledge of 2 characters that are going to be added to the game. I kind of doubt that given they're just a game tester probably from an external agency, but one thing I can understand is the Borderlands statements. The game does look like Borderlands from these images, and perhaps the original leaker does play a lot of Borderlands and maybe they just can easily compare the game to Borderlands, or maybe they just love Borderlands and just always compare games to Borderlands. Either way, my take on this entire situation is this. I believe most of this information is indeed legit, and I believe the game will play like a combination of both Borderlands and Left 4 Dead. It'll probably be a looter-shooter to some variety with large, separate mapped areas to explore, do quests in, kill bosses, and progress your character, all combined with that Arkane greatness. Remember though, perhaps the most important thing to take away from this leak is that it's not straight from Arkane or Bethesda. so we should hold on to our hype a bit until we get official information, as any of this is subject to change at any point during the game's development process. As for the pictures themselves though, they do look good and pretty hype, but you can definitely tell this is an early test build of the game, as there are missing textures and some other obvious things like testing elements built straight into the game engine to control things like world population, loot, and so on. We can see the characters have various abilities visible on the player HUD, similar to Borderlands, and the weapons too have other abilities as well, similar to Borderlands, and we can see what looks like some sort of rift event in this tunnel here. Perhaps it spawns a bunch of enemies that we have to defeat in waves, similar to Left 4 Dead, and throughout all the various images we can see a nice spread of different various environments and atmospheres, from what looks like the sketchy ruins of some kind of abandoned laboratory to the remains of a suburban neighborhood. We can see weapons with various skins, suggesting there is likely weapon customization, and that also leads me to believe that there would probably most likely also be cosmetic character customization as well, which opens up the doors for microtransactions, but as long as it's limited to cosmetics, I have no problem with it. If you want to drop $10 to make your gun glow gold and puke rainbows, that's on you, as long as it doesn't affect gameplay. And throughout most of these images, we can see what looks to be a compass of sorts at the top of the HUD, suggesting the semi-open world elements are true, and we can either discover points of interest that we can then further explore, or quests within our quest log themselves just mark stuff on our map. Finally, we can see dialogue as well, indicating our characters will interact with other NPC quest givers in the world, but no sign if we can actually partake in this dialogue. Also similar to Borderlands, and that is basically everything we can dig up from these images and from the leakers themselves. While all this definitely has me hyped for this game now, like I said, let's taper our expectations and wait for official information before our hype gets out of control. That's gonna finish up today's video. As always, let me know what you think about all this down in the comments below. Does this leak get you more excited for Redfall, less excited, or are you just not excited for it in general? If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give a video a thumbs up, as that actually helps the channel out a lot, and if you enjoy the content, be sure to subscribe as well, as that helps the channel even more. If you want to help grow the channel and the community, be sure to share the channel, share the video, as that's the best way a community can help grow a channel and the community themselves. And finally, if you want to go above and beyond to support the channel and the community, you can support the channel over on Ko-fi, Patreon, or here on YouTube as an exclusive channel member. Links for all this and more are down in the description below, and as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next time, when I'm going to start using an AI generator to tell me what to say at the end of these videos, because after 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 videos, I'm running out of random things to say at the end.
It just works.